A new survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation found that about a quarter of Americans do not want to get vaccinated. The skepticism represents a challenge as the country tries to control exploding infections, hospitalizations, and deaths. Quicktake Suma Hussein spoke to Americans about why they are hesitant and asked experts what's at stake if enough people do not get the shot.
After an unprecedented development sprint, the first doses of COVID-19 vaccines are now circulating in the U.S. in what is the country's largest ever vaccination campaign. Healthcare workers and people in long-term facilities are now starting to get a vaccine, but much lies in the next step: persuading enough of the population to actually get the shots. While a majority say they will take the vaccine,
no, I'm really excited about it. I mean, I'm 64, I have diabetes. You know, I'm definitely willing to take the vaccine.
Whenever it's available for us to take it, I would be the first in line.
I will be in line to get it for sure.
About a quarter, or 27% of the public, remains vaccine hesitant, saying they probably or definitely would not get a COVID-19 vaccine, according to a survey released by the Kaiser Family Foundation.
I think it's very controversial, and I think everybody should do what's best for them. I think for me, I have a lot more homework to do personally.
I'm not for it and I'm not against it. I just feel like certain things aren't necessary.
We often look for a magic bullet to solve all our problems, but a clinically successful vaccine must also be socially acceptable.
Could fear of the vaccine delay the pandemic's end? And why are some Americans hesitant? For many, the unprecedented speed with which COVID vaccines were developed have raised concerns.
I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't know. I'm not taking something that somebody put together all of a sudden. I mean, I don't want to be a guinea pig in somebody's game neither. But at the same time, if there's a cure, God bless the cure, but you got to have a result before you have an outcome, you know?
And me personally, I wouldn't trust it. Yeah, it was because they made a vaccine really fast. I've seen research where it takes 5 to 10 years to make a vaccine for any type of virus, and it was just really fast for this one.
I know in general people are just concerned about how quick it came. So the technology we have in 2020 to develop a vaccine is very different than what we had to develop vaccines in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. We know a lot about sequencing genomes, so that was done very quickly, which really supported the efforts for the vaccine.
This technology uses mRNA. It encodes a protein, and when injected into a person, the person makes that protein and an immune response against it.
We have technologies in place which allows us to make vaccines and evaluate vaccine candidates in an ultra-fast fashion.
Public health authorities like the FDA have also been speaking to the public to combat these hesitations.
Efforts to speed vaccine development have not sacrificed scientific standards or the integrity of our vaccine evaluation process.
But for many, distrust in public health authorities like the CDC, FDA, as well as the current administration is exactly what's putting them on the fence.
So I understand that people are concerned about the independence of the FDA and the CDC. I will say that the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices is an independent committee and not beholden to any one political party. So if the ACIP approves the vaccine, I would be very confident that that's independent.
For others, they simply want to know how the vaccine will affect their body.
Not really knowing, not knowing the side effects, not knowing if you have an allergic reaction and what will cause the allergic reaction. I think for the most part, that's what I'm worried about. Being vaccinated first, I think is a good idea because we are frontline workers and we are working with the public. But I'm like most people, a little skeptical about it, but I work in a very vulnerable population. So if I have to get it, if it's mandated by my job to get it, then I'll get it. But if I can wait until June, then I will wait until June.
The news that 2 British healthcare workers had severe allergic reactions to the Pfizer vaccine prompted the UK to advise those with a significant history of allergies against receiving it. In the US, the FDA responded.
If you've had a history of allergic reactions, obviously you should tell your doctor about those, but the vaccine really is one that we're comfortable giving to patients who have had other allergic reactions besides those other than severe allergic reactions to a vaccine or one of its components.
While the first Americans have received their first dose of the vaccine, Sarah McBride is one of the few who have already received both Pfizer doses in the vaccine trial.
The first injection was really uneventful. The second injection, I did kind of feel a weird tingling right after the injection, and my temperature went up a couple of degrees. But then in the middle of that night, I woke up and I did feel pretty sick. So I felt very hot, and then I felt very shivery. And the next day, I could barely drag myself to my desk. I felt very tired. But then by about 5 or 6 o'clock, I felt fine. So it was a few unpleasant hours, but again, worth it and probably much better than getting coronavirus.
After the second injection, fatigue and headache were the most common systemic reactions in the clinical trial.
In general, the benefits outweigh the risks, and I think the risks are likely small because the safety profiles seem to be very good.
Pfizer did not study the vaccine in pregnant or lactating women, though the FDA is leaving it up to those women as to whether they will receive the vaccine. Many are wondering whether or not they even need to get the vaccine after already contracting COVID-19.
I already had COVID in the spring, and I still have the antibodies. I've had it, since I've had it, and I have the antibodies. Should I still be getting it?
So one of the things we don't know about COVID-19 is whether a naturally acquired infection provides protective immunity. That's one of the reasons why people who have already been infected are also on the list of people to get vaccinated.
It is also currently unclear how long the Pfizer vaccine's immunity lasts, or whether it's effective at preventing transmission of the virus. The FDA expects more data on this in a few months.
It's a very optimistic step in the right direction. I don't know if it's the beginning of the end of COVID, just because it's a cure for COVID. It's not really a cure for stupidity and selfishness.
I've been very distressed by all the people who aren't following the guidelines. We know from looking at other countries where people are following them, New Zealand, Australia, China, and elsewhere, that they're living a very normal life without vaccines. So I feel hopeful about the vaccine, but very dispirited that our country is in this position and can't live without it.
If America is to achieve herd immunity with a vaccine that's 95% effective, like Pfizer's, 63% of people would have to be immunized, according to the medical journal The Lancet.
So if we don't get enough people vaccinated, we will have to continue to mask, socially distance. We will continue to see people get infected, hospitalized, and die. It's serious.
I agree with the person who said, I'm not for it or against it, I just think it's necessary.
Yeah, I wonder if schools are going to make this compulsory, though.
Yeah, because all other vaccines are compulsory unless you get some kind of waiver for it. But, you have to have X percent of the students taking it to make it effective.
Exactly. We'll see.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quicktake now for insight in an instant.